Hello, everybody. So today I want to briefly address the layoffs of Enphase. And even though the media has reported poorly on these layoffs, I believe they are actually a good thing in the case of Enphase, because the main thing I read into these layoffs is that Enphase is consolidating manufacturing in the USA. They are doubling down on manufacturing in the USA, and as a result of that, they are laying off workers outside of the USA in Romania, and they're also laying off people at the Foxconn plant in Wisconsin. So they are consolidating their capacity at 2 USA plants instead of 3 USA plants previously. And so when you look at them laying off 10% of the workforce, always be careful with these headlines. That's workforce-ish in a way, because there were contractors, right? So it's 350 contractors and employees. Not all of them were direct employees of Enphase. And I think doing this because we know they have weaker demand right now, mostly due to the distributor issue. I just want to point that out. Battery has said that for a second time things should normalize in Q2 of 2024. But because of that distributor issue and the shipments, the depressed shipments that they anticipate for the next 2 quarters, they are expected to operate at a reduced amount. And that reduced amount should be about 7.25 million microinverters per quarter, which is a new guidance, by the way, which is good because it puts a number on and replaces an old number. And a lot of analysts, and I guess myself too, was fearful that that old number wasn't true anymore. We now have a fresh number to base our numbers on, and when you couple that number with also the normalized level that they've guided, which is after Q2, when the distributor issue abates, when that issue is gone, we know they're going to do between 450 and 500 million in revenue per quarter. So that's also normalized guidance. So we have a normalized guidance in 6 months about as a number, right, as a revenue number in the 500 in just under 500 million a year, a quarter in revenue, 500 million a quarter in revenue, and 7.25 million microinverters per quarter. You know, I believe, to me, this is a fairly good news. Consolidating in the US with one partner instead of 2 is a neutral to good news. That means they're only going to be dealing with Flex in the USA, their contract manufacturer Flex, which, by the way, was the contract manufacturer owning the plant in Romania, and they are leaving Foxconn, and that simplifies their business. They don't have 2 partners anymore. They just have one partner. Probably a simplification of the business. Good for them. I would argue this is pretty neutral for the stock, because the capacity that was going on at the Wisconsin plant is going to be moved to the South Carolina and the Texas plant. And the same is true for Romania. They are leaving Romania, but they're not leaving Romania because they don't want to manufacture any more product. They're leaving there because they want to manufacture it all in the USA. So they're leaving Romania to manufacture in the USA, to which I say, good job, central bankers of Europe. This time, it's really rare that I criticize central bankers in Europe. I'm usually always criticizing Jay Powell, but this time it's not Jay Powell. This time I guess it's Christine Lagarde. Good job, because you did a really good job at softening demand, right, by shutting down a plant that was less than a year old. I remember in Q1, Battery was all excited about this new plant, brand new, fully automated in Romania. Well, thanks to the central bankers deciding for you what the economy should do and should not do, thanks to the central bankers, that plant closed less than a year old. This is crazy. Too bad for Romania, but central bankers is what they wanted. They never lied. So anyways, and these plants will come back, by the way, as interest rates inevitably return to zero, which is my working hypothesis. These plants will come back, but they might stay a little longer in the USA than most think, because now Enphase is not shy about going after the subsidies. We know, and Battery has guided that 2 calls ago, we know that the USA will be the manufacturing hub for the world when it comes to Enphase's microinverters, and I would argue when it comes to any brand's microinverter, because if you make a microinverter, you're going to want to go in the USA because of the 11-cent subsidy that you get on these. What's the business plan? The business plan is simple. Shift as much of the production you can of these microinverters that are manufactured around the world. Shift as much of the production as you can to the USA. Put it on automated lines, right? This is mostly automated manufacturing. This is high precision PCB boards, right? This is not, there's no humans welding anything, if that makes some sense. So you put them on highly automated manufacturing line, you get the IRA benefit, which is paid per watt, direct pay IRS, as Mandy says, the CFO of Enphase, and then you use the USA as an export hub, and you ship to the whole world to the USA. So that means what's going to happen is Europe is going to grow solar quite a bit, but we're going to get solar panels from China, and we're going to get microinverters from the USA, even though they just had a plant. It's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of silly. If you ask me, flying microinverters across the world, it's kind of pointless. But it's just the way it is. That's what happens when you have the IRA subsidies, right? The IRA subsidies disrupt economics. They disrupt economics, and now Enphase is kind of caught in the crosshairs of a technological revolution at first, and then we had the central bankers' madness, which hurt their business, and then now we have the subsidies and the subsidy fight. This is a fascinating company to analyze, if you ask me. It's my second biggest position. Anyways, Enphase now, it seems like a lot of the stock, in my view, is determined not by the technology, which they've nailed. I think they have the best technology. It's not determined by interest rates. Interest rates are bullish right now. Interest rates are dropping. This is good for Enphase. People are getting solar. Right now, this stock over the short term is determined, in my view, by the subsidies that we're about to get. And this is where it gets very interesting to me. The IRA benefit, as they call it. Is that nice? The IRA benefit. The IRA benefit is based on AC wattage. And AC wattage for their latest series, depending on the model you take, is between 330 and 360 watt. So knowing that about half of these, and that's my estimate right there, but about half of all microinverters will be US made, using that number of 3.7 million, and you do times 345, you take the midpoint here, times 11 cents, you get 140 million of cash, IRS direct pay. The IRS writes a check. You get 140 million of cash a quarter. So that's $500 million, more than $500 million. So 0.56 billion in subsidies a year in the USA. And so if I may say two things. One thing is that you bet that if there's more demand that phase internationally, or if they reach capacity too soon, in my view, expect more layoffs, because expect them to close more manufacturing plants outside of the USA. It's the logical thing to do. They're going to move all of the manufacturing they can to the USA, and I guess that's what the IRA subsidy was designed for. So we're going to move it all to the USA. So instead of having machines making this in Romania, or machines making this in Australia, in China, we're going to have machines making in the USA. I got a new metric for you. This is my first time using this metric, but it's a pretty fun one. Enterprise value for Enphase is $16 billion right now. The stock is trading at a price to subsidy, an EV to subsidy ratio of 29. It's a 29x EV to subsidy. So subsidies are better than profit, right? I mean, it's like there's no better payer than the U.S. government. It's IRS direct pay. So most stocks I own don't even have a PE of 29, right? They all have PE in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, because I do hyper growth stocks. So to me, again, doubling down on this stock. This is a value stock, even though it's trading at more than 130 now. It is still a value stock. Keep in mind, these subsidies are in full force until 2033, and they're only getting phased out in 2035. And who knows? I mean, how many elections do we have until 2033? Well, we have 24, 28, and 32. So we have 3 election cycles. Who knows if this is not going to be increased? Who knows if this is not going to be lengthened? If the IRA bill is not going to be renewed for a longer period? Who knows? We don't know. But we know at least it's in full force until 2033. And here's another thing, right? And this is where the what-if scenario come into play. Before this IRA subsidy discussion / madness, and I only say that because I'm a U.S. taxpayer, and it's a lot of money. But before that, they were already working on a version of a microinverter, of course, that has much better wattage, right? Much better wattage. And you see, they were working on this 480 watt AC power microinverter. And so my guess is that the IQ9 and IQ10s, wait for it, my guess is that they will come native with a power much closer to 500 watt, right? We're not going to stay at 330 watts. I think the power of these microinverters is going to be much closer to 500 watts, not necessarily because it's always needed, although solar panels get better and it might be needed, but mostly because of the subsidies, because you're getting paid per watt. So now Enphase has an incentive to manufacture as many watts as possible and to jam as many watts as possible in these microinverters. And we know from history of wattage increase in these microinverters, we know that they've increased about 50% in the past 6 years. And so I ask you this: what if the AC output power of these microinverters increase another 50% within the next 5 years? And what if they shift, all of the production to the USA, right? Or not all, but let's say it's just 70 or 80% of all of the microinverters manufactured in the USA. Well, you easily double the subsidies, and you could theoretically triple those subsidies. And they have an incentive to do this as fast as possible. So this is a business, in my view, where even if it stays flat, even if the demand for solar stays flat, which it inevitably won't, in my view, the technological trend is here. It's free electricity. You just have to put the capital up front. Once the capital's on your roof, these things last for a very long time. 25-year warranty. Solar panels installed in the late 70s, in the Jimmy Carter era, are still on and still kicking, and they still have 60% efficiency. This is a technological revolution, which I love. It's my style of investing, right? On top of a good financial operation for the customers, right? Customers install those because they want to get a return. And then on top of that, at the very end of it, what do we have? We have these subsidies, which are like the cherry on the cake. And so this is a business that can just optimize where it manufactures, optimize the type of product that it manufactures, focusing on higher wattage on the microinverters, shifting the production of higher wattage microinverters to the USA. They can just optimize that and make enough money to justify owning the stocks at these levels just for the subsidies. That's what I said in a video 2 months ago. The net present value of this stock's future subsidies, the net present values of this stock's future subsidies, in my view, is higher than the current stock price. And don't forget, there's more catalysts coming. There's batteries coming. And you may know, if you follow this space, you know that we have subsidies coming for the batteries too, right? It's a $40 per kilowatt hour subsidy coming for the batteries. And we know Enphase has plans of making batteries in the US as well. They're going to make batteries in the US. So this is I'm very bullish on this company. I'm happy to own it. I'm sad it's not trading at $70 anymore. I've paced my buys. I'm waiting for the next quarter and the next quarter. If they come up with a little bit of poor guidance or if Wall Street has another freak out, I'll be buying again. Because this is a long-term story, in my view. And this layoff, although it was advertised by the media, as the media always does, as a bad thing, it should really have been written not Enphase Layoffs, but Enphase Shifts. Enphase shifts production to the USA. Hence the title of the video, Moving to the USA. Anyways, this was not investment advice, just entertainment, no investment advice. Appreciate your likes, appreciate your subscribes. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.